Are you tired of spending a fortune on store-bought ice creams? Well, I am. And my family loves frozen treats, but we don't have an ice cream maker. Well, we've got you covered because we are going to show you some different ways that you can make homemade no-churn ice cream at home using pantry staples you probably already have. And really, you don't need any fancy equipment because a lot of these are going to use stuff that you already have. And of course, no expensive ingredients are needed. So let's take a look. Now, seriously, the majority of these recipes are just going to require a freezer. Okay. Now, some of them will use different like household regular appliances, think blender, food processor, but some of them just need a metal pan. So, seriously, cannot get any easier than that. And some of those fancy ice cream makers can be well over $200. So, the great thing about these recipes is they're easily adaptable, they use super common ingredients, and I am sure you can find at least one recipe that will work for you and what you already have. And then you can totally change it up and make a ton of different flavors. Now, don't forget that you can print a free PDF of all of the recipes that we're going to talk about today on my website. So just go down to the description, click the link, and then you can print the PDF. Now, this first recipe is what I think that everybody thinks of when they think homemade ice cream. We're talking about a very basic vanilla ice cream. Now, really, all you need for this is either a whisk or one of those hand mixers, just because we are going to whip the heavy cream until it gets to about firm peaks, which takes about 2 minutes. And then we're just going to fold in the rest of the ingredients, and then we're going to put it in just a metal loaf pan, put it in the freezer for a couple hours, and then you can actually fold in whatever you like. I'm talking about the last little bit of cookies that nobody else wants to eat, maybe some Oreos, maybe some cereal. We did this with Fruity Pebbles cereal, and my kids loved it. So there's just so many options, and there's something about taking something that they wouldn't want to eat right now, mix it into ice cream, and all of a sudden, wow, this is also a great way to use up odds and ends of like Easter candy, Halloween candy, even Christmas candy, M&Ms, Reese's Pieces, stuff like that. Totally cool. Now, this next one just needs a blender, and it cannot be any easier. All you need is some bananas that you go ahead and chop up and throw in the freezer. And honestly, I just had 8 bunches of bananas sent to me. And it's crazy because all I did is I took about 30 minutes and I opened them all up, either chopped them in slices or broke them in half, put them in the freezer, and then boom, I have tons of bananas to where I could make this every night of the week. Now, for this one, it's going to be a strawberry banana flavor. So we're going to add to that some frozen strawberries, or you could use just frozen or fresh, either way works. And then we're going to do some coconut milk. And that's just, to kind of give it that flavor, but you could easily swap that out for something else if you're not a coconut fan. Here is another option that just requires a blender. It's going to be a banana chocolate ice cream. And once again, we're going to use those frozen bananas, which honestly is such a great way to not throw bananas away in the trash. So even if I have bananas that are looking brown and nobody's going to eat them, I just go ahead and prep them, throw them in my freezer, and then I know that I'll use them later. This one's going to use a combination of some cocoa powder, some whipped topping, and some milk. And I'm telling you, it's so light, but it's so flavorful. And this is, once again, one that you can kind of switch up and change it around. If you're not a big fan of the chocolate, you could use some like caramel syrup. You can even do lots of different options here. This is one of those where I go raid my baking cabinet and just see what I have that I can throw in. Now, for those that are not a big fan of like the dairy-based ice creams, I've included some options that are completely dairy-free. Now, for this one, we are going to use the frozen limeade concentrate. You would find this in the frozen section. Sometimes it comes like a capsule like this, or you can some of them are like in a can form, and usually you see them as like orange juice, things of that nature. Really, any of those will be able to be used. And then we're just going to add some frozen fruit to this. I just like this combination of lime and raspberries because it's just It's kind of tangy, it's kind of tart, not super overly sweet. But this one just requires a food processor and it can't be any simpler. And this is one of those that I don't know, it's kind of like the no guilt treat because I can have my, my frozen treat, but really, I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at lime juice and fresh, excuse me, not fresh, but frozen raspberries. I mean, not even a whole bunch of calories there. Now, this is just like the other one, but this is how I'm showing that you could just twist it just a little bit. So instead of the limeade, we're going to use that frozen orange juice concentrate. We're going to throw in some frozen pineapple chunks and a banana. And this kind of gives you that tropical sorbet. So same basic process, but I just wanted to show you how just twisting it up to what you already have is a great way to do this. Plus, my rule of thumb is if you can find a frozen fruit or a frozen vegetable at a store, that means you can make it at home. So if you use canned or fresh pineapple for something and you have a little bit left over and it doesn't get used up, just throw it in your freezer and those little odds and ends can become your next sorbet. Now, my kids are actually huge fans of yogurt. I have one kid that eats yogurt every single morning. And so we always have some on hand. But sometimes you get kind of towards the end of the expiration date. And honestly, when it comes to dairy products, I don't mess around too far with expiration dates. So this is a great way to use up some yogurt into like a frozen yogurt. And you can use either Greek yogurt for the extra protein, or you can just use plain yogurt. Both of them work. And this time we are going to use some drained cans of peaches. Now, you don't necessarily have to use peaches. You can use any canned fruit, but you don't really need all that juice. So I would just go ahead and fill like an ice cube container with that juice, freeze it, and then you have that juice for something else. See, we're all about reusing all the little parts of something. And this is where you get like a nice little stockpile in your freezer that can become your next ice cream. Now, once again, you can use any of um, honestly, any flavor of yogurt and any flavor of canned fruit will work on this. And this is just super, super easy. And this one just uses a metal loaf pan as well. Now, I saved this one for last just because you cannot get any easier than this. So basically, we're going to make a sorbet with just some canned fruit and some water. That's it. That's simple. So what I like to do is we're going to take a can, just like the standard 15-ounce can. This time I use diced mangoes, but like I said, any canned fruit will work. And you're not going to drain it. You're going to use the fruit and the juice, and you're just going to put it in a Ziploc style bag, okay? And you're going to freeze it overnight. Now, another option of that is, like I had mentioned, putting it in an ice cube tray. Now, depending on your ice cube tray, I have done it where I spritz it with just a little bit of pan spray to make it come out really easy, but it depends on your ice cube trays and how easily they are to crack them. And then you just throw them in a blender and blend it with a little bit of just regular water. And it's so smooth. And I mean, honestly, you cannot get any easier. And like I said, it's a great way to use up those leftover itsy bitsy pieces. So I hope you're not throwing out fruit, because you can just stash it in your freezer and turn it into like a sorbet or a frozen treat later. Now, don't forget, you can go to my website and you can print out a free PDF of all of the recipes that I showed you here today, completely free. You just click on it. I just print directly from Page. And then don't forget to stick around because we do lots of easy and budget-friendly recipes, as well as 3-day and full week meal plans. So go ahead and subscribe and you'll be able to check them all out. And we also have quite a few playlists that you can check out as well. I'll see you later. Bye.